Here is Chris with today's topic.
Welcome back, folks. Chris Temple here, and today we're going to have a very important update from a company, of course, that I've covered for quite a while, BioLargo, which is listed on the OTCQX under the symbol BLGO. And those of you who are familiar with the story have heard me talk about the first thing that really brought them to my attention, and that was their technology with their subsidiary that deals with these things to deal with PFAS remediation. PFAS, or otherwise known as forever chemicals, they're in drinking water, they're in groundwater, they're in everything. It's a multi-trillion-dollar fix that's going to be employed over many, many years. And through its subsidiary, BioLargo Equipment Solutions and Technologies, whose president, Tonya Chandler, I'm going to introduce to you in just a second. Through that subsidiary, they have come up basically with a better mousetrap. You've heard me visit with it on that with Dennis many times in the past. Today I've got Tonya here, and it's especially timely because just yesterday, we're recording this on January 28th, on the 27th, they announced that everything is in place in Lake Stockholm, New Jersey, their first major municipal customer for this equipment. Tonya is going to explain what they're doing, what's installed, what the next steps are to scale this thing up. And then I think that down the road, we're going to see a lot of people taking advantage of this. So Tonya, welcome. I'm glad to meet you, at least virtually.
Thank you. It's nice to meet you, Chris.
So this is a big step for BioLargo. There's been a lot of scaling up and putting the equipment together. I was in, as you may know, the Oak Ridge office back last fall when they were putting all this together before they shipped it up to New Jersey. So I got to see it with my own two beady little eyes before it got delivered. And so now you've installed this. I want to get into what the next steps are there, but first I want to give people who might not be as familiar with BioLargo or with the whole PFAS thing, just a quick primer on what this is all about. You know, you're known as the PFAS lady at conferences because of BioLargo's bona fides and what you've done with the company. This is the reason why, as I've explained it before, the biggest reason why Dennis got appointed to that one board with the Commerce Department just for these kind of technologies. So give people a quick primer, if you don't mind, about what PFAS is before we get into BioLargo's Better Mousetrap and what's going on in New Jersey.
Okay, I won't go into the scientific name of it because it's about this long and
Right.
nobody will remember it anyway. Everybody remembers it as PFAS. But PFAS are forever chemicals. And that means that they don't break down easily. We find them in the environment, we find them in our food, we find them in our water. They're in the rain when it falls. And, it would be nice to say, well, just get rid of them. But the first one was developed in 1938. And we have slowly been living with them unknowingly ever since. I mean, it wasn't until 1998 that anybody even put a finger on them to say, hey, these are a problem. They're building up in the human body, and maybe we shouldn't be doing this. There was a court case. If anybody wants to see more about it, look for the movie Dark Waters
Yep.
with Mark Ruffalo. That's a docudrama about it, but it's pretty accurate to how all of this actually came out. So, are hard to remove. They're not something that you can, just throw a filter on and get rid of. When you talk about traditional technologies, the GAC filters, the ion exchange technologies, they all have limitations. They have to be, in the water has to touch them for a long period of time to get them to adhere and come out. And they really are a challenge. So when all of this came about, our engineers said, let's build a better mousetrap. And the EPA was doing a call for innovation. We answered that. We got a small business grant from the EPA, and we started all of this many years ago. I came onto the company 6 years ago. My job was to take this and say, hey, do we have a market for it? Hey, can we do something with it? And now we're there, and it's exciting. And this is our first municipal install. I say it's small but mighty because we had a lot of big challenges at this. The reason that it fits so well at this installation is our technology is suited to remove long chain, short chain, and ultra short chain PFAS.
Well,
Now
let me ask you
that's a
about
big deal.
Yeah, let me ask you about that, Tanya, because you and I were talking before I recorded about a lot of the give and take between state and federal regulations. Most of this, of course, is federal under the EPA, and it's this is a big deal as to exactly what the government is going to require, because we're at a time right now that and you had a great saying on this that AI is thirsty. I'm used to talking about outside of our context today the energy needs and metal needs, for copper, for uranium, for all the infrastructure, for the natural gas and everything that AI and data centers need. Well, AI needs a lot of chips. All these things need a lot of chips. Chips are extraordinarily intensive when it comes to producing them with the not only the energy but with the water, as you pointed out. And all of these things introduce forever chemicals, one way or the other, that need to be remediated. So this is a really big nut for the technology industry now. Forget about what's already out there. And I remember this. I got to throw this in. I remember this from when I used to live in upstate New York, and back in the 80s, it was discovered that Smith Corona, the old typewriter and technology company that had a big plant near Cortland, New York. There was TCL, I think, it was what that particular forever chemical was that they found in the water table. And for quite a while, until they got all that fixed, they were giving bottled water for a few years to people in a huge area in Cortland County, and I think down into the next county, Tompkins County as well. This is a daunting thing. As I said at the outset, it's a multi-trillion-dollar fix that's going to take many years to remediate. So this difference between the long chain and short chain. Tell us real quick about BioLargo's technology and wherever this ends up, regulation-wise. However many of these things have to be cleaned up now, whether they get added later. It's still a job that needs to be done. And so tell us how BioLargo's technology is better than what's out there right now.
Okay, so traditional technologies, ion exchange, granular activated carbon, they're really focused on the long chain PFAS. That's what they remove best.
Okay.
When you start getting, and when we talk about long chain and short chain, everybody goes, what is that? It's literally the size of the molecule. And there's a lot of chemistry behind it where I could tell you that it's measured by the number of saturated carbons and all of this, but really what it is, it's the size of the molecule. The smaller the molecule, the harder it is to remove. That's the key. The smaller the molecule, the harder it is to remove. So when this first came out and we were talking about, everybody heard the term C8 or PFOA and PFOS. Well, those are long chain molecules, and there's many of them, but those are the two big ones that came to, prevalence. And partly because they were in our firefighting foam. The original firefighting foams had those two chemicals. After a while, everybody realized these are not good. So let's stop using them. But the manufacturers just turned around and went to short chain molecules that do the same thing. They're smaller, but they do the same thing. Now, I will never tell you that all PFAS is bad, and I will never tell you that we can get away from it, because you were talking chips. It's used in chip manufacturing. It makes things waterproof. There's many medical uses for it. There's all these things, but we have to find better ways to get it out. So when we get to these shorter chain molecules, a lot of technologies can't remove them. Our technology can. We work differently. Instead of being dependent on just an initial attraction to a resin or being, using almost a mechanical filtration with like carbon does,
Right.
we are using an electrolytic field. We're actually creating a field that draws it to a membrane and solidifies it onto a membrane. Well, that makes it better for a number of reasons. One reason is when that membrane is spent and it has to be transported, it's solid. There's no chance it can escape. There's no chance in an accident of a truck or anything we're going to have an environmental disaster. We
Yeah.
can't do that. It's solidified onto a membrane. But two, we produce much less waste. And the waste becomes the big factor here. Not just that we are an efficient collector and we take it all out. There's so much less waste on site. If you look at a carbon system, when you talk about 1 million gallons a day, you're talking 80 to 160,000 pounds of carbon for
Wow.
waste. Our same system is 1 to 2 pounds.
Holy cow. That's big.
Then we take that waste and destroy it. It's
Right.
it's we are about 1/40,000th the waste of a carbon system
Yeah.
is what we say, kind of on average. Sometimes it's a little more, sometimes it's a little less. But we're about 1/40,000th the waste of a carbon system. So then we take out all the PFAS on top of it. We do our system as a service exchange type business model. So what that means is that we don't leave the customer any liability on that disposal. We take it and destroy it. So what ends up happening? So once they actually, we take that 1 to 2 pounds of waste back, we run it through a destruction process, and we end up with about a teacup full of inert salts that won't hurt anybody.
Wow. That's phenomenal. And
So
again, it's any of these kind of things that have come along over the years. It is really it sounds cliche, but it is a better mousetrap, and especially when you're talking about the waste. So Tonya, moving on, the installation's done now in Lake Stockholm, New Jersey. Your first municipal
yep.
customer. It's a very big deal. We've been waiting for a while for this. So tell us about the scale up, and is it correct to say that this is live now, or you're doing like an internal test, or
So
what exactly is going on?
so it's installed.
Okay.
We've run water through it. It works. But now we have to go through all of that regulatory testing.
Right.
That'll
Okay.
be a series of startups and stops and optimizations and all of that happens when you're going through the regulatory framework. When we are dialing in and doing our optimizations. So it'll be, it's there, it's installed, and now we just take the next step with the regulators. Um, Uniquely, that when we're doing all of this regulatory work, we're not just doing it with the state of New Jersey, who have been amazing, by the way. We're also doing it with the federal EPA. So the federal EPA, through the technical assistance program, had partnered with Lake Stockholm because they're a small community
Right.
and the regulatory testing gets to be a lot. They stepped in and they said, well, we'll do the regulatory testing for you. We had already been in
Wow.
contact with them about some other testing. So we coupled that together. And by the time we're done, we should have a nice white paper on how all this works. And it will have been done in conjunction with the EPA and the New Jersey DEP.
Well, and needless to say, that's probably going to help grease the skids for future municipal customers and others when the federal EPA has been looking over your shoulder on this first project, and if everything goes well for their purposes as well. I think that's going to open a lot more doors.
Yeah, and with the uncertainty in the regulations,
Mhm.
just recently, the appellate court pulled back the ability of the EPA to eliminate what they call those hazard index PFAS. So it was the 4 additional PFAS that they threw into the rule. Um, they're not allowing them to pull those backwards, which the EPA was trying to do. So now the rule, as it goes forward, is set to entail 6 PFAS, and 3 of those are short chain PFAS,
Wow.
which don't get taken out well by traditional treatment. So it really is, utilities are in that uncertainty realm of what's this rule going to look like. But now, until they hear otherwise, they have to plan for removing 6 PFAS and not just the 2.
And so to make sure I understand what you're saying, that the EPA wanted to reduce the number of chemicals that were required to be removed. So it was changing what was there previously.
So what ended up happening is the original rule, as it was put out to public comment,
Okay.
had 2 PFAS that had a hard number, PFOS and PFOA.
Okay.
Then they did what they called a hazard index, and it was a series of calculations that you did with 4 additional PFAS. And if they were above, you added them together. And if they were more than one, you had to do treatment. And if they were less than one, you were fine.
Okay.
When the actual final rule came out, instead of having that hazard index, they had hard numbers for those 4 PFAS. Well, there was a question on whether or not they had followed proper procedure and all of that in what they did. So when this went to court, as new rules always do, when it went to court, the court case stated that they didn't follow proper procedure by having hard numbers for these 4 additional PFAS because there had been no economic review, there had been no this, no that on hard numbers. Well, when the administration changed, they tried to pull part of that rule back and said, we'll just go forward with the 2 and we'll review the other 4. We'll come back with something and make sure proper procedure was followed and all of that. Court system said, no, you can't do that. So now it resets the timeline with all of the PFAS instead of just 2.
Wow. But in any case, yeah. I mean, in any case going forward.
It changes every day.
No, it does. It does. But what doesn't change is whatever you call them and whichever categories we're looking at, there are these forever chemicals in water, in the environment, pretty much everywhere that need to be removed. And if nothing else, just the fact that your system has far less waste in it, whatever kind of PFAS chemicals removed, I think that gives you a leg up to begin with, let alone for when you need to remove the short chain ones as well. That's kind of the differentiator.
And it allows utilities, by choosing a solution like ours, it allows utilities and industry. We do industrial wastewater.
Right.
We do. It allows them to select a solution that isn't just for the regulations today, but it'll handle the regulations that are put forth tomorrow or the next day.
Yeah,
so that you're selecting a technology that actually has some flexibility in it to what the regulations will look like in the future.
Gotcha. Great point. Great point. That's important. So anyways, we're obviously going to be keeping in touch on this as this goes along, the process to get this all vetted and with the regulators, state and federal, both looking over your shoulder. But it's an exciting milestone. Everybody was happy to see that, of course. And folks, here again on the screen is how you get a hold of BioLargo. I'm going to have a link as well on the YouTube version of this video to go to their site and learn more if you really want to roll up your sleeves and get behind underneath the science of this and so forth. It's fascinating stuff. It's complex and it's not really, in a way. And I know when Dennis and I have talked about it in the past, he would liken it to the old carbon filter that a lot of us have had in our homes and to compare things to that, but how much better this is. And of course, it needs to be on a much larger scale for industry and for municipalities. This isn't just my drinking water faucet in the sink.
Now it's a little bit more complex when it comes to scaling it up and all of that. But, we've got great engineers.
Yep.
They're good at what they do. And, we get contacted daily now on people looking for the better mousetrap, the better solution to this problem. So, we're gonna meet it head on and, keep going.
Well, I was impressed by what I saw when I was in your Oak Ridge facility, which I'll probably be back to from time to time when I'm up that direction, going through that part of the country, beautiful part of the country too. So it's a great place for those guys that are housed there to live. So Tonya, thank you so much. And folks, make sure you keep up with yours truly as well, because every now and then when there's news out from BioLargo and on their other subsidiaries as well, couple of whom have got news coming up near term as well. We'll always be back and bring you that as well. So Tonya, I'm looking forward to when our paths cross down the road and we can compare notes even more.
I think that sounds great.
Take care. Thank you so much for your time.
For much more of the National Investor's cutting-edge content and actionable investment opportunities, make sure to subscribe to Chris's free content at nationalinvestor.com. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel too. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.